Kumlen and Ablat Gemara. We are up to the Pei Aleph Amid Aleph. We are up to the Mishnah, and next week in Mitzvah Shem we finish the Masechta. Okay, says the Mishnah: Ochal, if you ate v'shasa and you drank on Yom Kippur behelam echad in one forgetfulness, ein chayiv elachatas achas. You're only chayiv one carbon chatas. In other words, it's considered one avera because we learned, remember we talked about 5 in Nuyim, even though there was 6, because drinking is like eating. What about ochal? The awesome malacha, you ate on Yom Kippur, which is the liable of a kadas, and you also did a malacha. Let's say you did them both by mistake. Is it also considered as one avera because they both happened breach on Yom Kippur? No, chayiv techatois, 2 separate averas, 2 independent averas. Ochal oichlin she'einu lechili, you ate food which is not suitable to be eaten, or shasa mashkin she'einu ruin l'shtir, you drank drinks that are not suitable to drink. V'shasa tzir, you drank brine, or murius, or like fish fats. Potter, the din is you are potter. Says the Gemara, because it's not considered eating or drinking. Remember, it has to be pleasurable. It's not pleasure at all. Amar Shlaki, he says Shlakish. Why doesn't the Torah tell us every time the Torah punishes, you don't punish unless first you have given warnings. So every aved in the Torah has 2 psukim. One pasuk says, "Don't you do this," and the other pasuk says that there's a punishment. So how come over here when it comes to Inui, when it says over here that whoever doesn't fast, whoever doesn't deprive themselves gets courage, there's no warning anywhere. It's not possible. It's written in a positive way. You should deny yourself, right? You should afflict yourself. So therefore, what should the Torah write? Should the Torah say, don't eat on Yom Kippur? You can't say that, because what did we learn yesterday? Achila generally is a kazayis, and we know that the reason why the Torah changed from achila to the word inu is to tell you that to change the quantity. So what should the Torah write? Don't deny yourself. What does it sound like? Kumachar masha means you should eat. The Torah has no breda, so therefore there can't be a warning. Maskul of Hoisha, if you're looking for ways, the Torah could have said the following: Nichter Rachman, the Torah said Hishamer, watch out, pen, perhaps Loisun, if you don't deny yourself. By saying Hishamer and pen, that's a warning. That's a warning. Because if it says Hishamer pen, each one of them is independent lav. If you should lava, you'll have 2 now. You'll have Hishamer, you have pen. Maskul be Rabayah, so Nichter Rachman Hishamer. Just say one word. Hishamer b'mitzvahs inu. Just say Hishamer. Be careful when it comes with the mitzvah of inu, and that will be a warning. In Cain says you want to know. We have a rule. Hishamer the lav. If the Torah ever uses the word Hishamer when it talks about an avera, then it takes on the identity of that avera itself as a lav. Oh, but Hishamer the asay. If the Torah is coming to warn you, be careful regarding the mitzvah asay of afflicting yourself, then the Hishamer also is only an asay. So therefore, we don't. That's exactly what we were talking about. Yeah. Actually, it's a machlekes v'yishamer asay is a lav or an asay, but we're following here the shlokish your hold that it's an asay. Says him further. So if we have no breda, maskal of Ashi, what do we have no breda? Nichtev. Why doesn't the Torah just say Nichtev al tosser min ha'inu? Could have written in this format: do not deviate from the mitzvah of inu. There's a clear lav, and regarding the mitzvah, and therefore to be one lav, and that would be a warning. Kashi, that's not a problem. However, now the Gemara is going to say there are a number of other answers where there actually is a warning, because remember we just learned the independent mitzvahs regarding Tisha B'av or Avedis, and therefore we're going to equate one to the next. For example, from the following place. It says in the pasuk, you should afflict yourself, and then the pasuk says, in the very same pasuk, it says afflict yourself, and then it says don't do any work. So, in other words, there's some kind of a hekasher. You equate the two, eating and working. Yochel, I would have thought that you hey anush. I would have thought that you should get kardas. Al toises malacha. I would have thought that you should get punished not only if you do work on Yom Kippur itself, but even there's a mitzvah of some say to add to Yom Kippur. And if you did work during that period when you added to the Yom Kippur, you have to bring Yom Kippur a little bit earlier. You also will get Kaddish. Tamaloyme, therefore the pasuk says, Chol hanefesh asher ta'aseh malacha. When? In the very day of Yom Kippur, not prior. So even though there's a mitzvah say, as we'll soon see, to add to Yom Kippur, but it's not a lav, you won't get punished, nor will you get malchus. Ali Tzuma Sheyem Onish Kodesh, you get Kodesh only the day of Yom Kippur itself. But you will not get punished if the addition to Yom Kippur you worked. Yochel, I would have thought, okay, Lo Yehi Onish Kodesh. Perhaps Kodesh is limited to the day itself. Because that pasuk that talks about Be'etzim Yom Hazeh, it says Vavadati es nefesh, which is that's chorus. Al toises melach, al ye'onush kodesh al toises ini. Before we get to that, what about maybe you have to add to Yom Kippur as well. You have to stop eating a while before Yom Kippur, and there's a mitzvah say to add to Yom Kippur. So maybe if you ate during that time, you will get chorus. Tamalayim, therefore it says by regarding eating, it says also kikola nefesh asher loisa una be'etzem hayem hazeh. Then so you get chorus. Ali Tzuma Sheyem Onish Kodesh, only in the day of Kippur itself you get Kodesh, but you don't get Kodesh for the Toises in it for adding. Yochel, I would have thought, Lo Yehei B'chal Einish, okay, you don't get punished with Kodesh. Aval Yehei Muzah, but the lav there will be, and you'll get 39 lashes, during that extra time before Yom Kippur that we brought Yom Kippur in early. If you did Malacha, you won't get Kodesh for it, but maybe you should get the 39 lashes. Therefore, to the pasuk, Chol Malacha, Lo Yisasu, don't do any Malacha, Be'etzem Hayem Hazeh, on this very day. And here it says loy sasu. All it talks about is the lav, in which you get 39 lashes, and yet it says clearly, only on Yom Kippur itself you get the lashes. We don't get lashes for adding and the period that you added to Yom Kippur. Okay, that's malacha. But regarding eating, let's say if you ate at the time when you were meant to eat, maybe you should get lashes for that. And it actually makes sense. Why does it make sense? One answer is Vitino, and the reason why you don't get punished for eating during that time, you don't get lashes, is because malacha is stricter than lashes, and if malacha you don't get lashes than eating, and if malacha you don't get lashes for, and surely eating in that time period prior to Yom Kippur, you won't get lashes for either. And why is malacha, the Isra malacha, stricter? It's not an Isra that's a prohibition that's only limited to Yom Kippur. Every Shabbos, every other, you're not allowed to work, and yet so it's so strict, so universal, and yet you don't get lashes if you worked in the time extra that you added on to Yom Kippur. When it comes to Inui, which is not done on Shabbos and Yom Tov, in other words, it's limited only to Yom Kippur, surely you don't get lashes if you ate in the time extra. So therefore, that's how we know. A logical thing. Okay, what about Yom Kippur itself? There's no warning. This was the Lakish question that started out. Where is there a warning that you're not allowed to eat on Yom Kippur? There's a punishment. It says you get renichusa, but where does it say that there's a warning somewhere? Don't eat on Yom Kippur. The question that Lakish asked. Minayin, how do you know? So we say as follows. There's an extra einish by malacha. The Torah says by malacha you get punished, right? It says the havadati is a nefesh mikerev amo. That seems to be superfluous. Lo yoimar einish malacha. Don't have to say a punishment by malacha. The gamma inu. I would learn malacha from inu because malacha is stricter than inu. And if inu says I'll give kares, so surely malacha, which is universal, forbidden on Shabbos and Yom Tov, surely get kares. Uma inu she'enu noyi b'Shabbos Yom Tov yet onush kares. Malacha shenoi hegiz b'Shabbos Yom Tov l'koshna surely should get kares. Lo monema. Why do you have to b'chal say that? Even though we have a rule ein einshim and adin, but maybe when it comes to kares we do. So we answer, must be mufta, must be written. The punishment for malacha is extra. For what purpose? Lahakish v'ladan mimenu. It was not necessary for itself, but it's necessary for something else. So we're going to use malacha to teach you regarding something else, and that is gizei d'shava. We're going to learn gizei d'shava. There's a punishment when it says if you ate on Yom Kippur. But never on Yom Malacha, there's a punishment if you work on Yom Kippur. Ma malacha. This is why when it comes to working on Kippur, the Torah clearly says don't do any malacha. Loi onish. And again, he didn't punish unless he actually warned you. He says don't do it because it's the pasuk. V'chol malacha loi sasu. You shouldn't do it. Af inu, so therefore we'll equate inu to that and assume that inu also has a warning. Af inu also when it comes to eating on Yom Kippur, loi onish. Hashem didn't punish. Ela im ken he warned. So that's what we learn. The warning for eating from the warning from working, because there's an extra punishment recorded there, which is unnecessary. So that's not good enough. You know why? Because just even though we said before, there's from one perspective, melacha is stricter than inui. From another perspective, inui is stricter than melacha. And how is that? Melacha, at least there are exceptional circumstances you're allowed to do melacha. For example, inside the base of English, you're allowed to do all the melachas. But there's no exception when it comes to eating on Yom Kippur. So therefore, your eating is stricter. So who says you can equate eating to malacha. Inui was never, there's never a time, no extenuating circumstances. But malacha is mutter sometimes in the base of Hamikdash. Ella, so therefore we can't learn from another. Ella loy yoymar einish be'inui. Let's say all the way around. Okay, you're right. We'll learn malacha from Inui because Inui is stricter than malacha. So if Inui has this warnings, then surely malacha does. What are we going to say? Why does the Torah have to say a punishment by Inui? If malacha you get punished, karas. Surely Inui get punished, karas. Because Inui is stricter than malacha. Why is Inui stricter than malacha? Because Inui has no exceptions, and malacha do in the base of Mikdash allowed to be permitted all forms of work. So therefore, what is it? Don't mention punishment by Inui by eating. They go malacha. Let's learn it out from malacha, and but learn it in a kalvachem. Ma malacha shehuter miklala malacha. When sometimes on occasion you're allowed to do work. Einish kodesh, onish kodesh, and yet you still get kodesh. Inui shlehuter miklala. Inui when is never permitted. Like koshkin surely. So here's that ayah when we have a food and drink for the ish iti, the person bringing the zaza wasn't because he was allowed to eat. It was just to have pas pasalai and no more than that. So there are no exceptions that you're allowed to eat. Like Koshkin, surely you get punished. Lama nema, why is there written punishment by eating? Mufta, that's the one that's extra. Lahakish v'lodin mimena gzeir shabbat, to equate and learn from their gzeir shabbat, and that is nemar einish binu. There's a punishment written by eating, but nemar einish malacha is a punishment written by work. Ma malacha, just like by work. Onash v'hizit, the Abisha punishes, but also there's a warning that don't work. So af ini as well. We're going to say that onash v'hizit. Since the Torah writes the punishment must be that also there's a warning. Says the Gemara, we can ask them around. Who says which chumrah is greater than another one? We found the chumrah by malacha, and that it's universal, Shabbos and Yom Tov. We found the chumrah by Inui, and that is that there never are any exceptions. How do we know which one is stricter that you're learning one from another? In contrast that with Inui eating, so therefore the question goes back. How do you know that there's a warning anywhere in the Torah that you shouldn't eat on Yom Kippur?
So usually when you have this sort of a clash, that's out of us, over the name of Sav and Sav, and therefore I learn like this.
Yeah, but there's no Sav. I'll tell you the Braisa. Hi Tana, this Tana etzem gomar mufta. He learns, and the word etzem is extra. It says be'etzem hayom hazeh when it comes to malacha. It says be'etzem hayom hazeh when it comes to eating, and therefore we're going to make a gzeir etzem just like by malacha there's a warning, so too by eating is a warning. But mufne must be extra. So you must say that one of the etzems are extra. Because the ilay mufne, if it's not extra, I can ask like we just said. Whichever way you go, we'll say that other one is stricter. Maybe that's why there's a warning. It's not so strict, and there's no warning. La, you're right. If mufne, it is extra. Why is it extra? Because he says here. Chamisha b'malacha. 5 different psukim in Yom Kippur. It talks about refraining from work, and there's 4 of them are just lavin, and one of them there's a punishment kares. Chad la'azhara d'imama. One is regarding the warning by day. The chad la'azhara d'layla. One is a warning don't work Yom Kippur by day. One is a warning Yom Kippur by night. The chad la'oinish imam, one is a punishment for working by day. The chad la'oinish d'layla, one is a punishment for working at night. So you got all bases covered. The chad, the 5th one, la'afnui extra lemigmar inim melacha, to teach you that extra that eating also learn from malacha. Should be, and the warning by malacha really relates to eating.
What's the harm?
Bain the yamama, bain the lie, by day and by night. Shaggy's I already asked. He doesn't understand if you break up day and night, then how come we don't find that in any other mitzvah, Shabbos, Yom Tov that we break up? He doesn't understand. He remains a tzarachin. So obviously, this answer here is saying is that on Yom Kippur itself, we would have thought that the day and night are different from each other, and perhaps because it's the kabbanas that are doing all the kaparas, and the kabbanas are only by day. So the avoid of the day and the avoid of night are very different. So you would think maybe that only by day, when you bring the kabbanas and the kapara, everything else, when you have to do all of these things.
Whereas what Shabbos doesn't have, or Shabbos,
so it's not the carbon that makes Shabbos. Because the Shabbos is using a carbon. The whole thing is kapara. What's the kapara? The silazazo, the pralachatas. So you would have thought, this is my own book's part. So we would have thought that maybe the day is in the night.
Sorry, you could say with Yom Tovim there's the chatas about Tumas.
But that's not what makes the Yom Tov. The Yom Tov is Yom Tov, and because it's Yom Tov, you do these things on occasion. And the same with Shabbos. But each Yom Tov has its own reason why we do the Yom Tov. But here, it's all about kapara. The kapara, this is what Yom Kippur is. It's not a separate thing. That's the Yom Kippur. Maybe. He remained the Tzorachin, so unless we have a better answer. Says my right, the way Rabbi Shmuel, the Yeshir Shmuel, I'll give you another answer. Nema kind of says Ini. But Nema Lahal says Ini as well. When a person rapes a woman, it says it because you raped this woman. Malahal and Leonish can he's over there. We find a warning. The word Inu we find in other places where there's a warning, so we'll assume there's a warning here as well. Rabbi Achabayaka says, you know what? Yal, if we learn out Shabbos, Shabbosin, Shabbos Bereshis. Yom Kippur is referred to as Shabbos, Shabbosin, and we learn from normal Shabbos. Ma'alahalan, just like an ordinary Shabbos, like honest, you don't get skila and all the other punishments. Only can he did there's a warning, don't do any malacha. I've come here too, like honest, only can he. So each one is having a different Zayda Shabbat. Papa says. So Rabbi Yaakov learns from Shabbos Shabbosin from Shabbos Bereshis. Papa says he goofa Shabbos. I don't have to learn Gzei Shabbat since Yom Kippur itself is called Shabbos. Forget the Gzei Shabbat. The fact that Yom Kippur is called Shabbos, the Chibur says Tishbishu Shabbatchem. It says Shabbos Shabbos Nilachem. He should so on and so forth. And from ninth from Erev Tishbishu Shabbatchem. Since it says Tishbishu Shabbatchem, so therefore it is Shabbos. You have to rest. So, since regarding punishment,
so since you have this idea of rest on the lack of rest is in the Hazara, therefore the Inu should also be the same thing.
He's saying the pasuk here is talking about that you should not eat, and you should not eat, and we're saying that that not eating is resting.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Shabbat, Tishbur Shabbat, that you should rest. So therefore, since we're saying that not eating is called Shabbos, therefore it's like Shabbos. What Shabbos is a punishment, is a warning. So this activity also talk about eating. Remember, that's the one we're trying to learn out. What do you call it? Rashi says, why aren't you learning from the beginning of the pasuk? The pasuk starts with Shabbos Shabbosim and the finish of Tishbur Shabbatchem. So he's learning from the word Tishbur Shabbatchem. Why not from the word Shabbos Shabbosim? So Rashi says Shabbos Shabbosim is not the name. It's not an activity telling you to rest. Shabbos Shabbosim is the name of the day. Shabbos Shabbosim is that the day itself is not called Shabbos. It's telling you what I expect you to do today is Shabbos Shabbosim. It's the day of rest. When is it called Shabbos? Only at the end of the pasuk, and therefore that's when we say it's like an ordinary, like the day of Shabbos during the week, Shabbos Bereshis, that you have, he's punished and there's a warning as well.
So he's saying the Tishbu Shabbosim tells you what this Shabbos in the beginning of the pasuk entails.
It's the beginning of the pasuk is telling you rest.
Yeah.
Don't need rest. And Rashi goes along and says because Shabbos Shabbosim Lashon Zocher and the word Menucha is Lashon Zocher. But the day itself is not is in the beginning of called Shabbos. Yeah, but he says there's a vav here on the side. One second, let's see what the vav says here. I'm looking before the vav. Manoyach. Why Manoyach? They take Menucha is Lashon Keva, so they bother by that. So they say Rashi says Av Lashon Manoyach or Lashon Zocher. Who said Manoyach? Anyway, okay, continue writing Gemara. He likes better to learn from itself. Why do you have to learn Gzei Shavah? Not only that, I'm saying another question. We learned a number of times a person cannot make up his own Gzei Shavah. So obviously, Papa didn't hear about Gzei Shavah, he can't say it. So what they're doing is they're trying to understand Pshat in the Brisa. The Brisa is the one who's learning this Azhara by what does the Brisa hold? So he's saying the Brisa must have held his Gzei Shavah, not that he's Rabachi making up his Gzei Shavah. But Papa still preferred to learn from the pasuk itself, from the concept of pasuk. I'm going to Papa, why do you look at Papa Miboile? You know why? He holds, look at the Tanya, like he needed what it says, the pasuk says, you should deny yourself on the 9th day of the month. I would have thought you stop fasting on the 9th day of Tishrei, at night. No, I would have thought at night, when it's pitch black, when it's after the stars go out. Start on the 9th day. Okay, you add to the day. You add to the day and keep it. Beginning of Kippur. When you go out whatever you start in the beginning, that's how you finish over the end. So therefore, you also have to add to the end of Kippur. Yeah. Yom Tevi Minayin or Shabbos 9 Tamaloim to the pasuk Tishbesu. The word Shabbos. Ain't the Shabbos Yom Tevi Minayin Tamaloim. It says Shabbatchem. Okay, it said Komokim should never shoot. Whenever the Torah refers to the day, it says rest. You add Mechol Chodesh. The Rambam holds that this mitzvah of is only applies to Yom Kippur. and not the Shabbos. And no mitzvah of Tosfos Shabbos or Yom Tov. And when you make Kiddush early, it's not because of Tosfos, it's because that is, or Ma'aviv is not because that's the din of Kiddush. You make Kiddush obviously before Shabbos is holy. So that's the of to be Meisif on Yom Kippur. And we said before, it's only mitzvahs asay. There's no lav, there's no mitzvah asay. So what about the ton? Here we have the concept of muti shaking while you're mezidin. If you see women, you eat late into the day. It says that you shouldn't stop them because they're going to eat anyway. So muti shaking while you're mezidin because it's not clear in the Torah. It's only a little bit. The Tana, the etzem, the Tana who learns Xer Shabbat etzem. Hi, but he doesn't need any more to be moisiv. Hi, but the fact that the Torah says etzem that only on Yom Kippur itself, you get kaddish. Is that ayah before Yom Kippur? You also have to stop eating, but for that you won't get kaddish. So therefore, what does he mean? My over what you do for me, boy. I need to look at the Tanya of Chibara Medifti. But the Chibara Medifti said, you should deny yourself eating Tishla Chodesh. You fast on the 9th day, but awesome is on. I will tell you, if you eat and drink on the 9th day, he's on the Chiva says 8th and 9th and 10th day. Rashi here said there's 3 opinions as to why you eat every Kippur. Rashi, one opinion is to make the fast easier. The other opinion, faket, to make it fast harder and you get extra credit. And the third opinion is because really it's Yom Tov, but you can't make Kiddush on Yom Tov, so you do it on every Yom Tov. Nafkamini is somebody who can't fast. What happens? So look, Rashi says here, this is the Mokher. Rashi says here, right in the middle of the page, says Rashi, why do you eat and drink Erev Yom Kippur? You should on the 9th day kilometer. Haskin atzmach, you should prepare yourself. The Tisha today shetuchali is anas basara. So Rashi clearly learns the reason why the Eibusher wants us to eat and Kippur to make it easier for us to fast and Kippur. Others say forget, eat a lot before fast makes it harder to fast, and this is to give us more schar. The big issue here is in the Rishonim and the more Lachronim. So the Gemara clearly makes a machlekes. You either learn from B'tisha l'Chodesh Tosfos, or you learn from here the idea that you have to eat Erev Kippur. You can't be both. Yet in halacha we pass like both. In halacha we say clearly that you have to eat before Erev Kippur and so on and so forth. And also in halacha we have Tosfos, and we have Tosfos and all the other Tosfos we learn is from Yom Kippur. How do you have both? Big problem. And we had the Gemara here. They say machlekes. We have Gemara Shana. If you're out there, that's a machlekes there. We had Gemara brachas in the beginning, in the first page. That's a machlekes there. How does it work? Favorite question, Rabbi Yehuda. What do you mean ki'ilu he's on the b'chia? It's as if you fasted the 9th and 10th day, but you are fasting the 10th day. The Gemara should have said is if you're eating on the 9th day, it's as if you fasted the 9th day. The Gemara says as if you fasted the 9th and the 10th day. As if means as if you did, but you didn't. What do you mean as if? You did fast the 10th day. So he says a brilliant shot. He says when you fast, every hour gets worse and worse and worse. And the second day is not just another day. Second day, you're compounding the tzar. So you're going to get credit for if you eat Erev Yom Kippur, for Yom Kippur, you'll get credit that not only that as if you fasted the 9th day, but the 10th day is a day that followed the 9th day. This is as if it's your second day of fasting. Second about further.
Not here. No, so
wow, this each Amid is trying to learn Pshat in the Braysh. The Braysh doesn't say what he's doing, so we all know why Rav Acha by Yaakov doesn't learn how to puppet. They're not asking it because he's a Tani, he can do whatever he wants, and he probably makabel this. Talk about it further. Food that's not suitable to eat. Said Rabbi cost pilpul. What if you chew peppercorns on Yom Kippur potter? Your potter. It's not food. Cause Billy you choose a ginger beer. You put on Yom Kippur potter. Your potter. If you chew food, which is not food. Potter. Potter means b'diavad. It doesn't mean you can go ahead and eat. Because remember the whole idea is yishuv hadas, and it's not yishuv hadas. It doesn't calm you down. Second one, that's a question. I said regarding Orla, like the question is peppercorn. Do peppercorns also have the din of Orla? Are they considered fruits? And mashma, but the pasuk says when you come to Yisrael, you will plant a tree bearing fruit, and the first 3 years is Orla. So the question is, why do you have to say a fruit bearing tree? If we're talking about fruits, obviously we're talking about a tree that can bear fruits. He said the pasuk the fruits, the first 3 years you have to put aside. Obviously it's a fruit bearing tree. Why is it start over saying if you have to plant a fruit bearing tree? To tell you, you know what eitz Michael is? I want to include another fruit, where the taste of the food and the taste of the fruit are exactly the same. What is that? Pilpul and peppercorns. The Gemara in the Flamet Hayden and Sukkah, when we talk about how do you know it creates other. So there's essing, maybe it's pilpul, and we answer because there's one lekich in here, peppercorn so small, you'll take a lot. So there are two fruits that Tam ate at Piri Yeshava, esrig and the pilpul and that peppercorn. But essig is obviously a fruit, so we don't need a limit for that. The limit is for peppercorns. That is considered Tam ate. The Reishis Bekurim says over there, sorry, the Kappas tomorrow, same say for the Kappas tomorrow says there in Sukkah. What do you mean Tam ate at Piri Yeshava? You eat the bark of a tree. How do you eat the bark of a tree? He says it means the sap. The sap that flows through the tree generally does not taste like the fruit, but by a ester tree, the sap in the tree tastes. Like that. He doesn't say that. This is what others say. And the same thing about peppercorns. That the sap going through the stalks is the same, or a little tree is the same as the peppercorns themselves. He actually says it means all fruits. The main part of the fruit is the flesh, and then you have the membrane around it, whatever. But by an essig, one of the telltale signs between an essig and a lemon is that a lemon is basically made up of flesh with a thin peel. If you open up an essig, you'll see that the majority of the fruit is the peel, and the flesh is a minimum. So therefore, Tam ate a Pirya Shava because the Pirya is actually the peel, external. That's similar to the tree. So how would he learn about peppercorns? I'm not sure. Maybe the same thing. Doesn't have much of it, yeah. Exactly. I'm not sure how he would learn that. Unless they're takiler and sidlish, there's literally the pepper tastes like the tree. True, okay. The lambda shapupin chayim tell you peppercorn chayim ain't it so and tell you also it's not lacking anything. It says there's nothing lacking. Even peppercorns growing at this row. Like kasha is not a problem. Oh, but if it's moist, it's food, and you chayv orla. We're talking about on Yom Kippur We're talking about dried pepper. That's not food. Said, "Hi, he said this mixture of spices, and you crush some spices with honey. Also, that it comes from Ethiopia. You would think Behindo means rather like India." Those places. Rashi says Kush, that is Kush. So we normally translate Kush as Ethiopia, but many people say that Kush is actually the Kush Mountains, which is north of Afghanistan and the border with India. And that's what the Haidu Kush that says in the. You may have two opinions in Gemara. Are they two far away places or two very close places? That's exactly the machlekes. Which Kush are we talking about? Ethiopia, because the people there are dark, or are we talking about the Kushian Mountains, which today are still called the Kushian Mountains, the north of Afghanistan? You make a bracha, so you do make a bracha again like kasha. If it's moist, you make a bracha. If it's dry, you can't. So I learned. If you ate the leaves of reeds, potter, it's not food. But lulavik fanim, if you ate the branches or the leaves around grapes and the grapevine, chayiv, you are chayiv for this food. Elu hein lulavik fanim, what's considered the vines, grapevines? Amar Abishchad midullah kol shelav levayim Rosh Kippurim. That while it's growing between the seasons of Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, then it is edible. But if it grew before Rosh Hashanah, by now it's already just a piece of wood. You can't eat it. For 30 days. Tanya, we look at what's Lulavik fani, but if you ate the leaves of vines, chayiv, elu hein lulavik fani. What's the leaves of vines? Kosher, limlo, but you can put him anything that grew between those days. That's when it is. Shotzati, you drank brine or murias or fish parts. Potter, your potter, hachaymitz. Sounds to me of vinegar, you chayiv. Maslis mani, who holds that vinegar is considered a drink, and that if you drank it on Yom Kippur, you're actually considered drinking. Rebbe, it's Rebbe Tanya, Rebbe Yom vinegar, meishiv es hanefesh. Vinegar somehow or another restores your life, gives you vitality. Daughter of Gidul Bamenashe, Ein halacha kerebi. The halacha is definitely not like Rebbe, and vinegar does not have this capacity, and therefore vinegar. If you ate vinegar on Yom Kippur, you're not chayiv. It's not considered food. That's what he said. Now you see from here how careful a rav has to be. So what happened was, Lashana, the next year, Nafki Kuli Alma, everybody went in his town, and Mozgu B'Shasa Chol on Yom Kippur. They went ahead, they diluted some vinegar with water, and they all drank on Yom Kippur. They went to drink vinegar because he said the halacha is not like Rebbe, and vinegar is not food. Now, vinegar itself you can't drink; it's dangerous. So they mix it, dilute a little bit of water. Shamar Av Gidul Ikvi, he heard that he was very makbid. Omar, no, what I said was the evet. If you drank it on Yom Kippur, you won't be chayv kodesh. I tell you, go drink vinegar. Another thing. I said taking a little bit doesn't restore you. Two, you drink a lot. Of course, then he's right. It's restoring you. And I was talking about when vinegar on its own. But you diluted with water, and I made a drink. Be careful how you paskin it in. Remember the microphone that he made.